Welcome back to the Blessing Builder podcast about speaking life, encouragement, and hope into the people around us every single day. In our last episode, we talked about speaking life over ourselves and the importance of changing the conversation happening inside our own heads on a daily basis or on occasion, whatever it is for you. We need to change that conversation. And today, we're going to tackle something that affects every relationship that we have. That would be criticism. Not constructive criticism or constructive correction, and not even honest feedback, but the habit of constantly noticing what's wrong instead of what's right. Because if we're not intentional, criticism can become our default setting.
Yeah.
We can just very easily fall into that.
Totally.
And when it does, it slowly damages the people that we care about the most.
Yeah. And if we're being honest, like criticism is easy. And I think that's why we can fall into that as our default so quickly. Before we get into this, I think you had something you wanted to read, though.
I just want to read Psalm 141, verse 3. It says, "O Lord, place a guard on my mouth, protect the opening or the door of my lips." And I think that, we talk a lot about speaking life. The words that we speak are very important into what we hear, what the people around us hear. But guarding that is a different thought process, I feel like. Because, as we said, criticism can just come out so easy that if we're not guarding our mouth, then the criticism will come.
Yeah. And the reason it comes out so easy is because criticism doesn't require any effort. It's easy to find it's easy to see bad habits and faults, and anyone can point out mistakes. Any of us can identify what's missing, but to be intentional about seeing what's positive, that's not, for most people, that's not our default setting.
Right.
In fact, I would say most people can criticize without even thinking. That's how ingrained into our psyche it is.
I will say, though, that I think that when you initially meet a person, you are more likely to give positive feedback to them.
First meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the longer.
Yeah. It's when you've been around them a long time, you're more comfortable with them. Maybe you start experiencing the annoyances with them.
Yeah.
And then you just put your guard down, and criticism is what comes out.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. When our walls drop, that's when our criticism can become our habit. Like, I know this person well enough now that
right.
I'm gonna puke all over them what their faults are.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want to avoid, and what the paradigm shift that we want to create for people. We want to, when we let those guards down, I think we stop seeing people clearly. And what I mean by that is, all of a sudden, all of the little annoyances, the quirks, the personality, whatever, all of those things where, like, I'm comfortable enough with this person, that wall dropped. I'm comfortable enough with this person that I'm gonna, in the nicest way possible, maybe, I'm just gonna let them have it with, that annoys me and that annoys me, and why do you leave your socks out, and why can't you put your coat away, and all those things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those are real things. I think probably every married couple has that problem where after the first, what you might call the honeymoon phase, every couple has that shift that happens where marriage bliss turns into, I'm so over you leaving this out.
Yeah. And I feel like criticism can, like, yes, it can be that of pointing out faults and failures, but I feel like the heart of criticism is saying something in a way to somebody that is true and about them negatively, but it's also throwing in a little bit of a joke or a little bit of degrading in a fun way to kind of make it look like it's okay to say.
Yeah.
And I think for us that, like, we for sure fell into that trap at one point in our marriage when things were really hard.
Yeah.
And it was just a constant thing of criticism. And now we can recognize that in other couples. If we hear them constantly criticizing each other, we're like,
Yeah. Time out.
yeah, they might be in a rocky place right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also know for me, if I find myself doing that a lot, I know that it's time for us to reconnect differently.
Yep.
It's time for us to have, go out on a weekend.
Yeah.
Something.
Yep.
Something needs to shift and change.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I think, one of the things that starts to happen as criticism becomes more a part of our life. We default, I'm going to use that term again, we default to seeing flaws before strengths, mistakes before progress, problems before potential. And eventually, that's all we see. All we see are the shortcomings. And that's kind of a hard hole to dig ourselves out of, because once you hit a point of that's all you see, like that's all you can focus on. So what is the cost of constant criticism? I mean, like how does that affect over time our relationships? I think as you were kind of introducing this episode, you were talking about over time these things happen. So what does it do in our marriage? It creates distance, like you disconnect. In parenting, it can create discouragement, just an atmosphere in the home of discouragement rather than encouragement. In friendships, it can create tension. To a point where I don't want to spend time with that person because all they do is tear me down. And even at work, it can create resentment. It can create resentment in any of those arenas, I think. But nobody thrives in an environment where all that they hear is what they're doing wrong. And it doesn't matter if it's your kids, your spouse, your coworkers. When all they're being done is torn down, they're not going to thrive. Think about it this way. Have you ever tried to grow a plant where you're constantly cutting it down and like forcing it to start over? That plant is never going to grow. It's never going to thrive. Eventually it will actually die because the roots aren't getting any nutrients. Photosynthesis, if you want to go into the whole horticultural thing, which probably none of you do. But that's what constant criticism does to people. It's like constantly cutting them off and then expecting them to still grow. It doesn't work that way. There's a correction trap that we can fall into. And correction is necessary sometimes. I want to be clear on that. There are times people need correction. Children sometimes need guidance. Employees need coaching. Friends need honesty. But correction without encouragement, that just becomes crushing and will kind of suck the life out of your soul. And that's what we have to guard against. That we've got to be very careful about constant criticism without encouragement.
For us, it's something that affects our children, because I can for sure fall into the correction
Yeah, absolutely.
error.
Yeah, correction without encouragement.
Yes. Because we have, when your children are little, you're going to correct them, helping them to learn what is right and wrong, and guiding them through all of those younger decisions. As they get older, I'm still finding myself correcting because I'm thinking these children are about to go out on their own eventually someday.
Yeah.
And so they need to know that this is how you do this. They need to know that this is not the best way to do it. This way would be better. Yeah. And so I find myself still correcting quite a bit because I want them to be prepared and ready.
Yeah.
But I don't do it in a way that encourages them first.
Yep.
I say, you shouldn't have done that. and leave it at that.
Yeah. So think about that. If every conversation starts with you should, you need to, you forgot, you always, eventually people just tune that out, and that's where resentment starts to set in, right?
Yeah.
They quit here, all the correction, and there's resentment that builds up. One of the conversations that you and I just had was sometimes we just have to pick our battles. Like not everything requires correction, especially as they get older. Your children get a little older, but when they stop hearing the correction and they only hear disappointment, that's again crushing. I'll use that word that I used earlier. It really is a crushing of the soul and unhealthy for our kids. So there's a principle, and I'm not saying that we're great at it, but there's a 5-to-1 principle where every time you correct, you should try to give 5 points of encouragement. And that's tough because that requires really looking and paying attention, because it can't be fake praise. It has to be real encouragement that they can walk away from feeling built up and edified. That's the key. So that requires us to notice effort, to notice growth, to notice character, to notice progress. It's not that people need less correction necessarily, because again, we need correction.
Right.
The scriptures are full of times of people being corrected. Yeah, right? It's just that, so it's not that they need more or less of that, it's just that they need more encouragement surrounding it. God and his word, again, full of correction, but also full of encouragement. Like he's quick to encourage, to remind us he loves us and he values us and cares for us and he's merciful to us and all those things. That's very encouraging. If it was just a book of thou shalt nots, not super encouraging.
Right. And maybe we need to go back to the thought of why are we giving the criticism? Because I feel like there is a difference between correction and criticism. Correction is more like you're trying to, at least from my perspective, you're trying to teach somebody what they did wrong. Whereas criticism is more of a jab. That's the word I was trying to figure out last episode. It's more of a jab of, oh, you're like this and you need to change that. Or it's.
Are you sure it wasn't backhanded compliment that you were looking for? Jab.
Yeah. Very simple. 3 letters. And so criticism is just a little bit more of a frustrated undertone to it, or.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
And so I feel like there's a difference for sure between correction and criticism, and getting back to actual criticism, that is a matter of the heart, because like our own experience, when we would criticize one another in our relationship, it was because we were frustrated, we were upset with the other one, we were annoyed, we were tired of bad habits, and that is how it came out of us, was with criticism.
Critical spirit.
So getting back to, guarding that tongue, guarding your thoughts. In Psalm 139, it says, "O Lord, you examine me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I get up. Even from far away, you understand my motives. You carefully observe me when I travel or when I lie down to rest. You are aware of everything I do. Certainly my tongue does not frame a word without you, O Lord, being thoroughly aware of it." And to me, that is, he knows everything. He understands all of our motives. We might be saying it as a joke, but he knows
the heart.
He knows what our heart is in saying it. And that, I think, is the deeper issue, is the underlying issue.
Side note, when somebody says to follow your heart, that's probably the worst advice they could ever give you,
Yeah,
because the scriptures say that our heart is desperately wicked and who can know it.
right.
That has nothing to do with criticism, but
Follow the word.
follow the word. So as blessing builders, like how are we different? How is what we're trying to convey different? So builders see what can be. And that's true if you're building a house, and it's true when you're building people. A builder doesn't stare at an unfinished structure and say something along the lines of, "Oh, look at everything that's missing," because they can see, they have an image in their mind. So a friend of mine has a construction company, and our one boy works for him, and he's kind of shorthanded, so I've been helping him out for the past 3 weeks, and it's so interesting to watch somebody who has that kind of visionary mindset with a project that can take a piece of bare land, and he knows exactly what it's going to look like in his mind. That's what a builder does. And we do the same thing with people. So we should be able to see somebody really as Jesus sees them. So we were just listening to watching a podcast last night that some very good friends of ours and a couple of our own children were on, and they were talking about that very idea of seeing people as Jesus, as Yeshua, the Messiah, sees them, and how that should cause us to treat them differently. Like I can't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I can't think of a single word that the Messiah uttered in the scriptures that was criticism. He corrected, going back to your point, he regularly corrected, but not out of a critical spirit. Mm-hmm. And if any of you would like to challenge me on that, I welcome that challenge. Let's walk through the Gospels together and see if I'm wrong. And if I am, I'll stand corrected.
He received a lot of criticism.
Boy, did he. Yep.
But dishing it out,
yeah,
I'm not sure he did too much of.
No, I don't think so. So how do we replace criticism with maybe curiosity, rather than constantly? And I mentioned the "thou shalt nots" earlier. So next time you're tempted to criticize, what if, instead of simply saying "thou shalt not," what if we would say something along the lines of, "Help me understand." Like, I truly want to understand what your point of view is, where you're coming from, because maybe they have a really good reason for doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't, and then that's the time to correct, but not criticize. Instead of asking, "Why did you do that?" you can, again, it's a great time to say, "Help me understand," because we can't read people's minds, right? I mean, we have that conversation. Like, I'm not reading your mind. I need very clear instruction. Hints don't do it for me. Specifics. If somebody's constantly forgetting, why, instead of saying, "Why are you always forgetting?" Why couldn't we ask the question, "What would help you remember? What could I do to help you remember?" Because that idea of what could I do to help you, that's really, that's encouraging to somebody, just that. Like knowing that somebody wants to help them. Curiosity will oftentimes build bridges, whereas criticism oftentimes will start to build walls. At least that's what I found in my own life. Maybe you've found something different.
No, I think that when you are asking more open-ended questions in a way that is curious of how you can help somebody, they're much more open to receiving.
Yeah. People will be very honest. If you say, "I want to help you. How can I help you?" A lot of times they're pretty open.
Yeah.
They're much more likely to say, "Well, you could do this. I don't respond well to this." So for 1 week, I want you to pay attention to your words. You can too. I was going to look at you, but really pay attention to your words.
It's a hard one for me. It's challenging for sure.
For most people.
Because I'm the mom who's constantly correcting. And so it's a challenge. This will be a hard challenge for me this week.
You'll have to post how you're doing. So every time you're tempted to criticize, pause and find one thing to encourage them with first. And then I'm curious for all of us, what changes? Do people respond differently to us? I think they will.
It'll be really hard. Some people, I think, just live their lives criticizing all the time.
100%.
That's just always what comes out of their mouths. So for somebody like that, it's going to be extra hard to make that shift. So if you're one of those people, start slow. Don't beat yourself up if you can't get the challenge completely. Start little bits. Maybe even just start noticing what you're saying, how it's coming out, how people are receiving it.
And maybe that's something too. We don't notice that we have a critical spirit or that we're constantly criticizing because we're so used to it. Again, that's our default. We just don't even think about how harsh, unloving, not gentle my words are. And I think we need to pay more attention to that. That's a good exhortation.
I have noticed that for one of our children, their response in things can always be more criticism or at least a little more harsh.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have started making them aware of that. Just saying, watch your response.
Yeah.
Careful of your response.
Yeah. You need to say, like, you need to go back and say something kind to them.
Yeah.
Something
What would I say?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would do exactly what we were talking about. You would say you need to go back and say one kind thing or two kind things or something to build them up.
Yeah, I am the one who usually tells them, go back and tell your sister a nice thing because what you just said was not nice.
Yeah. Yep.
So then in the process, I have to bring out something. Yeah, I'll have to keep thinking on that.
We all do. Yep. Blessing for this week. May your words build more than they break. May your eyes see progress instead of only problems. And may your voice become a source of strength to the people around you.
Can we go back to what you said in that blessing of may your eyes see progress instead of only problems? That I think is a really big thing, to not always be seeing the problems, not always be seeing the negative things. Usually we end the episode with the blessing. Maybe you need to say it again when I'm done. But there's a lot of times if I'm gone from the house and I come home, like I automatically see the bad things, like dishes aren't washed.
Yeah.
There's shoes all over at the front door. Why hasn't somebody cleaned these?
Yeah.
And then in my own way, I'm criticizing everybody because here I had to come home to this mess, or you guys didn't get this done or that done. And so actually seeing the good, seeing what they did do, even if they didn't do anything, but they're getting along or they're having a conversation that is edifying and beneficial. There's always something, always something that you can find that will show you progress in who they are.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. Okay. Well, thank you for listening. If this episode encouraged you, please share it with someone who wants to build healthier, stronger, less critical relationships. They want to weigh their words more. Share it with them. I think this will be beneficial to them. So next week, what do we got?
Next week we're talking about the power of making people feel seen, which we've kind of touched on a little bit previously with noticing those that are overlooked. It's kind of a similar concept.
It is similar. I think we're going to hit it from a slightly different angle.
Okay.
But
that'll be good.
That's what's for next week. So until then, man, keep speaking life and keep building people up. Keep building blessings. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us.
See you guys.